Dr. Jazz.
Oh man, thanks for taking the time. Appreciate it.
Sure, I appreciate it too.
I mean, I've done these talks with basically so many guys you play with, and so I kind of go through my CDs. I'm like, yeah, Pandelis, that will be fun, and always hoping like, okay, they will say yes. So, but I'll just jump in. You know, I've listened to your music for such a long time, and you've been so productive lately. You know, I thought I was like kind of following, but then I checked your Bandcamp and I was like, oh shit, okay, that's a lot of new music. And I wanted first to ask you this talk, you know, like your relationship with Jeb Bishop. It's incredible. You've done so much stuff together. Where does your story with Jeb begin, and how do all these projects happen? Actually, I mean, because you've done so many diverse.
Yeah. No, I've been very lucky to know Jeb, and we have a beautiful musical relationship and friendship. It started, I believe, was it like late 90s? I went to Chicago for the first time. So that whole thing revolves around my connection with Nate McBride. So Nate and I met at the Union Conservatory in '93. And we started playing. We had all kinds of collaborations, etc. And then he moved to Chicago. And when he was there, he invited me, and that's where I met all the Chicago people, like Ken, Rempis, Jeb, and many, many others. And over the years, while Nate was living there, I kept traveling back and forth. And then Nate moved back to Boston. And so we've kept up that relationship with the Chicago folks. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I would alternate.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Because Jeb is also now like on the East Coast, not in Chicago anymore.
Well,
right?
he moved back 2 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
So that last recording we did was a few months before he went back to Chicago.
Ah, okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love your connection. It's so great. I mean, it's such a great player. I really love Jeff's playing.
He really is, and composer.
Yeah. And native, obviously, of course, also. Yeah. But I've noticed you release a lot of the records on your own label, so Drift Records, and
right.
How did you decide to go that path? Because you know you released with so many labels in the past. Like when did you start?
I know. Well, right. Jorit Dijkstra, and Jorit Dijkstra is a saxophone player who lives here in Boston, and we're friends, and we have been playing for a while. And around the time that we started the Whammies, that group, we decided to do our own record label just for our own projects. So things that he recorded on his own, his groups, my groups, and our collaborations. And we have done maybe like 12 or something, I don't know, somewhere up there, 12, 13, 14 CDs over the last 10 years. So that has been great. And the reason we did that was just to have better control over, you know, the whole production process and the release dates and every aspect of the record.
Yeah.
So we've been very happy with that.
Do you do also physical copies then of everything, or
do what?
If you do physical copies of like
physical,
CD,
yes,
vinyl, or
I actually have them right here. Look,
really? Oh,
here you go.
Really?
These are all Drift records. There's more, but these I just grabbed a bunch.
They're beautiful. Oh, nice. Yeah.
And Jorit's brother does the graphic design. He lives in the Netherlands. So we have kind of a unified look to the whole thing, which was the thing we really wanted.
That's great. Yeah. Oh, fantastic. Super. Yeah, it's nice. You have so many artists have been starting doing this, like, you know, years ago already, like 20 years ago. Just
I saw that you have your own label too,
yeah,
right?
Also, yeah. and Dave Rempis, I talked the other day, and I mean Tim Daisy. I think everyone is
Everyone, yeah.
yeah.
I mean, Dave is so prolific and organized and serious about his label. You know, the PR he does around it. He's like my icon. You know, I can't. I wish I could do all that he does.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. I mean, I mean, I love making records, you know, and recording, and I mixed and mastered them on my own, and then the CD is out. I get the CD, so I'm like, yeah, fantastic. And then it's like that part, like, you know, sending it and you know, to journalists. I'm like, oh shit,
Yeah, that's a lot of
another
work.
round of that, really. Like,
But once you've done it a couple of times, it becomes,
yeah, but
yeah,
I don't know. That's the part I hate. This is like,
yeah, I know.
yeah, which, yeah, but that's part of the game, so you get used to it.
Well,
But
that's part of the other thing. I mean, because when you go through a label, I mean, when you do it on your own, you know exactly who you're sending to. It's
yeah,
really a tailored list, and you cultivate those relationships a little bit too, which is
yeah,
nice.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now the problem with many labels, I figured out lately. I mean, the labels I've done records now in the past, I mean, really good labels, but like they just don't send out physical copies, you know, to journalists.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's
That was one of the reasons.
yeah,
I've seen that too, and then you get like 3 reviews, you know. But when you do it yourself, yeah.
yeah, you
Anyway,
get 30 or 20. But anyway,
yeah.
yeah, it's. But speaking of your label, I was really surprised by that project, the Hassan Hope and Monk project, and
Right.
it's such a beautiful record, man. And
Oh, thank you so much.
really, it's amazing. I did not kind of expect that one from you. I don't know why, but like when I heard it, like, what's the story behind that one, and why those music?
So Nate and I had a trio with Kurt Newton like about 10 years ago, and we did a couple of releases on Clean Feed and Hatology. And on the Clean Feed one, it was a trio we named the MI3, and it started off where I was playing the Fender Rhodes with various pedals, etc. And that's when we played a bunch of tunes from the first Hassan album, the one with Max Roach, and we did that one that has a weird name. What is 3/4 versus 6/8?
Mhm.
Anyway, so we really got into Hassan, and we did like over a few years with a bunch of his tunes. And then 2 years ago, this new album, you know, that had been lost, you know about it. It's called it's the Hassan Trio.
Oh
So
shit! No, I had to find. No, I don't know about it. No,
um,
I'll Google
I'm
it.
blanking on the name of the album,
I'll check it out.
but it's basically from the same time period that the trio with Max Roach was recorded, but it's a quartet with Odeon Pope
Whoa, really?
saxophone. Yeah, I'm upset that I can't remember the name of it. Did I write it here in the liner notes? I think I did. It's called Metaphysics. That's the
Oh,
title that they gave it. So that was recorded in 1965, and then Omnivore put it out in 2021. This is all through the labor of Alan Sukoning, who was a student who at the time who met Hassan and befriended him and recorded him on his reel-to-reel recorder and preserved a lot of these tapes. But this particular one was a studio recording. Anyway, Alan got into, you know, spearheaded the release of it, and then when I heard that, I just transcribed a bunch of them, and I decided we had to do it. And then it kind of fell into place because at the same time I was very interested in Elmo Hope, and then there was a connection between Elmo and Monk is an obvious connection because they were close friends.
yeah.
Whatever. Hassan was a huge admirer of Elmo Hope, and he wrote letters to him and so forth. Yeah. So, but all three belong to this kind of group of pianists Matt Shipp has a name for that school of pianists, but they all belong to this group of kind of outside of the bebop canon of the time. They were like, although Elmo Hope, you wouldn't
He's
think
quite,
so
yeah.
at first. Like you can see Hassan is totally idiosyncratic and and kind of like Monk or
Monk is
Sun
Monk, yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah.
But Elmo also is part of that. So anyway, three kind of idiosyncratic, iconoclastic pianists who are also some of my favorite pianists and great composers. So we put together this project, and it's a little more not as deconstructed as other ones we've done. So
yeah, that's why. I mean, because it's a really it's like swinging record. You know the tunes, and like it's nice to hear you play like that also. So.
And Luther Gray plays drums on this one,
yeah.
and Luther is an extremely versatile player, so can really swing his ass off. So that's great.
Yeah, it's a beautiful one. I hope you'll continue working with this trio. It's such a nice connection you have, obviously, with the two of them. So yeah, like but you mentioned these three piano players, and you come from Greece, so if we're talking, I don't know, late 70s, early 80s, I guess, or who were these players that got you excited for jazz? Actually, were these in the list? I mean, Monk maybe, probably, or how was the situation in Greece? I mean, like back then for jazz.
Well, when I was growing up in Greece and became first aware of jazz and all that, that was really the very late 70s when I was in high school, and there was a very good scene there at the time. There were a scene that was short-lived, but was for the years, let's say 78 to 84, 85, was really booming because this was coming right after we had like 70 years of a dictatorship and everything had been clamped down. So there was an opening in all of the arts, and so it happened, and there were a few people, as always, like idealistic, people who do these kinds of things. They got together, organized a magazine, organized the jazz club, jazz festival, and this went on for a few years. And the flavor of this was definitely leaning towards free jazz.
Really? Oh wow, interesting.
So they instead of bringing Sarah Vaughan and Oscar Peterson, they would bring the Globe Unity Orchestra and Sun Ra and Jamil Mundak and people like that. So that was my introduction. I can't say that right away I was convinced, because I think at that time I would like to listen to Miles Davis more, but I was definitely introduced to the idea, and over time. But Monk was like one of my first loves right away. It just spoke to me because he's quite different from everybody else, because you can really hear him thinking and coming up with ideas, and it's like almost you can touch it, the formation, the spontaneous formation of a fresh idea, and twisting and turning this way and that way. And so that really appealed to me.
Yeah. Did you start playing then gigs also with local musicians while still?
Yeah, we played quite a lot. Really? We had like a regular all year round weekend gig. There weren't that many jazz musicians at the time. I'm talking right before I came to the conservatory. So like 83, 84, we had regular gigs.
Wow.
And we weren't that good either. There weren't that many people.
But you play standards. I mean, like
totally.
Really interesting.
Stella by Starlight.
Really? Oh wow, interesting.
Yeah, that's what it was. I mean, we did some Coltrane tunes, but that's what it was.
Wow, interesting.
And then I came here to study at NEC. And
how did you decide to do that? I mean, what's this?
Well, it was, like I said, there weren't that many jazz musicians, and at the time there weren't even, teachers or schools that taught jazz today it's totally different.
Sure.
You know, not only on the institutional level where you have like universities and music schools with very qualified professors who, you know, but you also have YouTube and whatever. So it's a totally different landscape. Back then, there was one place where you could buy Jamie Aebersold albums, and then I had to ask a friend who was studying in Boston to get me a real book. There was really nothing, you know.
Sure, yeah, sure.
So I knew that I had to go either to Berkeley or NEC. I had a friend who went to Berkeley and told me about NEC, and then Ram Blake came and played a concert in Athens, and he had brochures about NEC, and that looked like a really creative place because Ram Blake was there, Jimmy Jufrey was there, Jackie Byard was there.
Oh, wow.
Although by the time I got there, he had gone. George Russell, you know, it was like all these interesting creative musicians were there.
Yeah, like
So,
I've read you also studied with Paul Blez there, or how was that? Like,
sorry, you cut out there.
oh, sorry, I've
Paul
read.
Blez was later.
Oh, he was later. Oh, okay.
He came later when I was a graduate student. I said, yeah.
How did the lessons with these guys look like? I mean, you know, I love Jimmy Jufrey and Paul Blez and George Russell and all these guys. Like, what did you guys play? Or
well,
like,
Jimmy Jufrey, right? They were all very different. I mean, the teachers I had. So Jimmy Jufrey, first of all, I didn't take private lessons with. But I was in his in the student ensemble that he coached for 3 years.
Oh, wow.
So it's interesting because I love Jimmy. I love his music and I love everything about him. And I liked his ensemble because it was really he really allowed students to try out their ideas. He let us bring our own compositions and we played them, you know. And it was very low pressure. Some of the other groups there were very, you know, like George Russell, for example. They were like all about, you know, like playing these fast tempos and sight reading and being like really. So I was more into the creative thing, and that's why I enjoyed so much. And then the personal style of all these teachers differed very much. The most extreme was Paul Blez. You probably have heard stories about that.
Yeah, I mean,
everybody has some Paul Blez stories. So anyway,
what's your Paul Blez story?
You know, you'd show up for your lesson with Paul Blez, and he'd take you out for coffee and tell you stories about, you know, his life and career. That was the lesson. I mean, there was a little bit of playing, but I have to say that book, his autobiography, it has a lot of those stories. When I was reading that book, it was like, oh, and I paid tuition to read these stories.
That's I mean, he was an incredible piano player, but yeah, quite
incredible.
a character. Yeah.
And so, I mean, but I often thought afterwards, you know, that so much that I learned from him was just by listening to his records.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah. How did you then get I mean, some of the first records I have you on, I checked, you know, I still have CDs, so I kind of love to go through the CDs. Like, it's with Matt Maneri, and was he one of the first guys you hooked up with? How did that begin?
That's
like
correct.
For you?
So yes, we started working together right around the same time I was studying with Paul, and that's when it's all kind of connected there. The Joe Maneri, Matt Maneri, Paul Blez story. So Matt's dad, Joe, was a teacher at the conservatory.
Oh, okay.
So he had an interesting career where early on he did some recordings, he wrote some compositions. He came to the conservatory, but then his career had kind of taken a backseat to his teaching, raising a family, whatever. But then he and Matt, everyone at the conservatory was telling Paul Blez, you have to hear Joe Maneri and Matt Maneri. So Paul Blez came to their gig, and then booked them to the Montreal Jazz Festival. And from there on, the Joe Maneri group took off. And Matt's career also took off, and he moved to New York and so forth. So that all kind of connects. But back then here in Boston, we just did a lot of sessions together, and we did that duo recording in '91, I think. But we would go over to the Maneri's house and stay, through late at night and play music and hang out and listen to music, and it was just a great time.
Yeah.
Very formative days for me, at least.
Interesting. Yeah, I love those records. I mean, you had such a nice connection. I mean, it's with Matt, beautiful. Yeah. When Matt moved to New York, did you ever consider also going to New York, or?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, but at that time, I don't know, that I can always go back and wonder whether I made the right decision to not do that or not. That would have been the time, the late '90s, when everybody was moving to New York, and I stayed in Boston. So obviously things would have been different. I don't know if I did the right thing or not.
Oh, I mean, come on, I think you've still. When I look at your career and the records you made and the music, I think, it's different probably than it would have been, but yeah, I mean, still it's incredible, but instead of New York, you mentioned Chicago already before, and I wanted to ask you, like, connected with Ken, Vandermark and all those guys, how did you feel the Chicago scene, like entering that scene? I mean, through Jeb and Nate, I guess, but like
I just love all those guys. I love their music, and they were so welcoming and open, to having me work with them, and I'm just so grateful. So this year, so then with the pandemic, it has been a few years, but this year I went there twice.
Oh, really?
Right?
Oh, well, okay.
So yeah, I went in March, and we played with Jeb and Damon. Damon is in St. Louis now. Damon Smith.
Yeah.
And we did this was the other CD we did last year.
Duels, right? No. Yeah. This is a beautiful one. Yeah.
Right. So it's piano, trombone, piano, bass, trombone, bass, 3 duets. Anyway, so we did the tour there. Then I went back in June, and we played with Dave Rempis, and we did a new quartet with Dave and Bill Harris and Jacob Heinemann. And we recorded it, and we're going to put it out. It will actually be a co-production of Drift Records and Aerophonic Records.
Oh, okay, cool.
We're hoping for March. Yeah, and so many, and then this time I got to meet some of the younger people in Chicago, some amazing players, Lil Finnegan and Sarah Clausen, and Tyler Damon and Adam Shedd. Yeah, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So it's just a wonderful scene there, and Mike Reed.
Yeah, sure.
Books the Constellation and the Brain, and then Elastic. Now I guess it's changed hands, but Dave was doing that all these years.
Yeah, you caught kind of like the last train of that revival of
Elastic,
Chicago. Yeah. Also, like the late 90s.
That's a community of people who are really helping out each other. We don't have that here in Boston,
Interesting.
Venues, the organization, the support. Here it's a little more fragmented, but it's considerably smaller.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But I wanted to ask you about I think the first record I bought by you was Disambiguation, and you kind of connected then with those New York guys, like, who I love, and played with some of those. How did that record happen? I mean, like,
well, Matt had already moved to New York at that point, and he was the connection to get
Tony and Mike and yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I love that. That's such a nice record. Really.
Yeah. Now, of course, Tony lives here in Boston, since a year or two.
Yeah. Yes. Say hi to Tony if you see him, by the way. So, otherwise, did you ever go then back to Greece also to play? Like, I mean, and tour Europe? Like, when did you start doing that? Like, going as a professional musician to Europe to tour?
Well, it started in the late 90s. We did a few tours, and then in Greece in particular, I haven't played that much.
Yeah.
We did it in 2017 or 18 or something with the Whammies. We did the tour there.
Yeah.
And last summer, actually, I did a residency at the Music Village. Have you heard of the Music Village?
No.
Since you're not that far away from Greece.
No, I've never. I mean, I played all over Europe except Greece. I think it's one of the few countries I never played.
It's not a festival per se. It's more of a music workshop event that takes place every summer on Mount Pelion. So it's in a remote village on a mountain.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay.
And, yeah, it's a week-long thing, and they have all kinds of music seminars. So they have, like one on maqams, one on brass bands, Balkan brass bands, things like that. But they also have other things, theater and meditation and whatever. So you go there for a week and you do one class, and this little village is full of young people.
Wow.
They come from all over the world, though. Yeah, and so this past summer I did a workshop on improvisation, and that was really nice. So to answer your question, and then we did also a recording with a Greek bass player, George Kokkinakis, and we're going to release that too next year. We did a recording in August in Athens.
Fantastic! Wow. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't play there that much. It's been I have to say that there isn't such a demand or enough venues in Greece for more I don't know what
music. Yeah.
is. Yes. Yeah. It's very much
traditional in a sense.
One thing, I don't want to name it.
I know, yeah, but I know what you mean. Yeah.
So one of the reasons I did these things last summer was I was trying to see what kind of a scene there is, and I'm trying to make some connections because I really want to be part of something there too. I'm just having a hard time. Like, I want to organize a concert, maybe bring some musicians from the United States, but it's so hard.
Yeah, you've become more of an American now than probably you're like considered in Greece a jazz musician, I guess, right?
Yeah.
I mean, almost, yeah.
So
yeah. You mentioned the Whammies. I wanted to ask you about that project. How did that come about? And connecting with some crazy Dutch musicians like Han Benning. How was it like play with?
That was really Jorrit's brainchild. That group. It started a couple of years before we started the group. Han was coming to Boston, and we did a trio. With
really?
him
okay.
And Jorrit, and then Jorrit got access to Steve Lace's unpublished compositions through his widow, and he thought it was his idea to create a group that would perform unrecorded compositions by Lacy. And Han was an obvious choice. I mean, Jorrit had the connection with him already because they're both Dutch. And that was fantastic. I just loved playing with Han. He's just such a legend. And I had all the recordings of him and Misha playing. There were very special items in my record collection. So
did you ever meet Misha, by the way? I mean, he was quite a peculiar character.
No, not really. I mean, I saw him play, but I never met him personally. But Jorrit studied with him when he was still in the
Really?
Netherlands.
Oh wow, man! I should do this talk with Jorrit also one day. I mean, he's such.
Yeah,
I
you
love.
should. Yeah.
Yeah, I love his playing and stuff. He's quite a unique player, so definitely, yeah. Uh, Otherwise, Pandelis, I wanted to ask you about your solo piano playing. I have quite an extensive Leo records collection, and there's this one 17 pieces that you made. And
Right.
how do you approach the solo piano usually when you?
It's interesting you're asking that, because right now I'm in the middle of rethinking that, and I want to do a new one, because I spent the summer working on a solo program which I played in that village, and I did another one just 2 weeks ago.
Oh, really? Okay.
iPad, and I'm just trying to see how, because 17 pieces was now what, like 15-20 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm really thinking about how to evolve my solo piano, which I haven't done enough of. And well, that album was very much about just deconstructing tunes and so forth. I mean, it's hard to put into words how I'm doing it differently now, but yeah, that is what I'm working on right now.
Yeah, no, I'm asking because I mean, I did like a solo guitar record 2 years ago, and I took like all Eric Dolphy compositions and played them on acoustic guitars, and for me
cool.
it was like a real playing solo guitar, having this traditional heritage behind you, like from Joe Pass and Johnny Smith, and then you have the modern guys, like Joe Morris and Ben Monder, and I was like, shit, man, like I'm like zero against those guys, so I kind of tried to really reimagine how to play solo guitar, basically, like, and for the piano I think it's the same, like how to get rid of everything and make your own story. I mean, that's the.
So with Dolphy, like some pieces are really just some pieces that don't have like a cyclical form.
Yeah,
they're easier to do, in a very open, creative way.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
But when you get to the other kind, just as when you're getting to Monk or Hassan, or when you're dealing with a cyclical form, that is what I'm struggling with. Is like keep it, but keep it under the surface.
Yeah, exactly.
And not be obvious about it, but also not forget about it. So that is a fine line to do that without being like respecting the piece and its structure, but also not doing the same things, that for me personally, I don't want to repeat the things that I was doing 20 years ago. I'm trying to, so it's a process. You do, and
yeah, no, it's a heavy one. It's like it's for me, it's always playing solo. It's like,
yeah,
even though it's easier than a solo saxophone, obviously, in a sense, I guess, because we have the harmony and the melody, but still it's so scary sometimes just to play solo. It's like, oh shit, man, what am I doing?
Yeah, that is true. You can't stop for 2 minutes, to let
exactly
the other person take a solo, and it's a different kind of pacing.
It's a different beast. Yeah.
It can be very enjoyable, but it can also be nerve-wracking.
yeah, exactly. Otherwise, do you still compose music also? I mean,
yes, I do. I write. I write pieces. These days, I write them without chords, or I just want them to be ideas that then can perpetuate themselves in the
kind of like melodic lines and
and I'm trying to make them not so full of septuplets and
of course.
I'm trying to make them a little more simple, because like when we were playing with Matt back then, 93, if you look at those scores, they look little crazy to read.
Interesting, yeah, but because it's like a thin line between improvised and composed also there. I mean, I have sometimes it's troubles following whether it's improvised or composed sometimes. I don't know.
Yeah. So that is of course, because everybody, like the compositions you or I or anyone writes are in the language, reflect the language that we're improvising in, just like Charlie Parker did or Monk did. And that is one of the challenges of taking a Monk piece and then doing it, your style.
Yeah.
Because, like, for example, I love listening to Schlippenbach play or Mengelberg play Monk, right?
Oh yeah, sure. Sleeping Like is amazing. Yeah, those records. Yeah.
Yeah, because they respect it, they do their own thing, but they don't impose their thing. But then, as much as I admire Chick Corea for other things like that Monk album that they did. I'm not talking. I mean, technically, they're monsters.
No,
they're
no,
gods.
I know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean.
Talking on a conceptual level, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
I agree.
I said something negative.
No, but that no, it's just like I'm the same opinion. Like it's like you know, a guitarist plays like Pat Metheny. Let's say I get a student and he's amazing. He's like Pat Metheny lines, and I'm like, shit, man, it's great. I can't play it like that, but like the world doesn't need another Pat Metheny or someone who will play those tunes. Like
exactly.
Put your own touch in it, and
these are the ideas that get us in trouble.
Yeah, that's maybe why Chick Corea was where he was, and we're like, yeah, I don't know. No, come on, it's all good. But yeah. But otherwise, you mentioned you know, new records coming out, and what are your plans for the upcoming months? And album-wise, you know, Dave Rampis, you mentioned the connection, and
right. So we have that album, and we're working on a Chicago trip to promote the album when it comes out.
Fantastic.
We have a new quartet with Stephen Haynes and Eric Rosenthal and Kit Demos who lives up in Maine.
Oh,
and we're going to do some more playing in January and May. And then we have a local series here once a month where we Eric Rosenthal and I do it, and each month we have different guests. So we get to play with the people that we, you know, that live here and we play with often, but we also invite outside people as long as it doesn't take too much to travel. So, you know, like I don't know if you know all the people who live around here, like well, there's Nate, there's Luther Gray, there's Kurt Newton, Brittany Carlson, Forbes Graham. There's a lot from Connecticut. We have some people coming, Dan O'Brien and Caleb Duval,
shit, I don't know.
Max Goldman from Providence, Jeff Platts. You know Jeff, fellow guitarist?
No.
He plays in Germany quite often.
Really? I should I'll check him out.
I thought we might have crossed paths. Anyway, so we do that regular thing here.
Yes, it's so there are some players there around you, right? For this kind of open music. I mean, yeah.
There are, but I wish there were more. And then we've been doing with some regularity a little drift festival, and we invite people from New York or Chicago to come and play. Well, that we do that maybe once a year. It's just hard because there's no funding, you know. So
yeah,
this isn't Denmark here. It's bad.
I know what you mean. Sometimes friends of mine complain, like who are in Germany, like, yeah, I got only this much support, or in Slovenia here, and I was like, man, people in the States don't get anything. They have some grants or whatever, maybe, and you know, it's like, be happy you got crumbs. That's something, you know. But yeah, but good. You're still incredibly active, I think. You know, when I see you and hear what, so that's good.
I try, but I also have a day job, so you know it's hard. Certain months of the year, you get just as you're starting to feel, you know, I can do this, I can do the other, and then you know, school year starts and there's no time for anything.
I know. I teach as well, so for me it's like, you know, just to gain energy sometimes to record something at home, and I'm like so tired, and we have a small daughter, and I'm like, oh shit, okay, let's do it then, you know, okay. And then once I get into it, it's cool, but like just to get to that point, like to get rid of the baggage, I'll put it like that, and play music. It's heavy, yeah, but still, you know. Otherwise, have any plans of coming to Europe, by the way, or?
At the moment, I don't have anything.
Okay.
We've been talking about it with. I went this past March. I went to Copenhagen and played with Kasper Tranberg and Christian Osgood. Yeah.
Oh, wow, fantastic.
Yeah, and we did a couple of gigs in Sweden too, and so we're talking about doing that again soon, but we don't have a date set.
Yeah.
And I really want to. I was trying really hard to get some gigs in Greece. Like I said, I want to bring the Dave and those guys, and it's just I'm hitting one dead end after the other. So yeah, I haven't really organized anything.
Yeah. Well, drop me a line if next time you're coming to Europe. Let's get together and play or whatever. Get for some food, drinks.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I listened to your. I was checking out your Bandcamp, and I really like the duo album you did with Sabir Mateen.
Oh yeah, really? Oh yeah, shit, that's so old, man. But yeah, that was a fun session.
I really like.
You played with Sabir otherwise, or?
No, I've heard him play, but
okay. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, he's such a nice player. I mean, he's beautiful sound and the improvisations, and it's that was a funny session because I didn't know he had that sleeping disease, you know?
No, I don't know that. I don't know about that.
Oh, he's sometimes just, you know, dozes off like.
Okay.
And we played, you know, and I had my eyes closed, so we're playing duo.
You thought your solo was really boring.
Yeah, you know, and I was like, I have my eyes closed. We improvised 5 minutes, and then, you know, there's no Sabir anymore, and I have my eyes closed. I'm playing 3 minutes playing, like shit. Okay, fuck, I must be doing something wrong or something, and I'm still young back then. And I open my eyes, and there's Sabir, like. Yeah. And then the guy who recorded us was like, "Oh, don't worry, he's like that." I was like, "Oh, okay, shit." It was quite funny actually, but yeah, so a great player. Yeah, beautiful. But cool, man. I'll leave you a nice. What is today? Saturday.
Okay.
Saturday afternoon there in Boston. So
right.
And thanks for sharing some of these thoughts, man. And really appreciate it. So.
I really appreciate it very much. It's great talking with a fellow musician who's in the same mindset.
Yeah, you too. And